Hey, and welcome to this video on proactive versus reactive corporate mental health. And I'm looking so much forward to actually sharing this content with you because I think it's quite important that we get the distinguish between these two ways of approaching mental health and well-being in an organization. And just so that it's said, and I think that that's actually quite important because both are quite important. So it's not like we need to do one and not do the other, but I just want to make sure that you have a clear understanding what it is to actually be a corporate mental health facilitator and where we kind of place ourselves in this spectrum of being reactive or proactive. And I want to try to explain it to you in the most simple way that I could, that I simply could think of. All right, so whenever we're talking about something that's reactive, right? So the house is on fire. We need to do something about that immediately. We need to get someone that can actually come in that's very trained at putting out a fire. And that's the same as whenever there's something reactively wrong with the mental health in the organization. We need to come in and kind of try to put out the fire as soon as possible. So if people are suffering from stress or suffering from very, very long time burnout, well, then we need to get someone who is clinical trained to actually take care of that person and fix that. That person doesn't necessarily need to be part of the everyday life of the organization, but it's extremely important that it's someone who actually can go in and say, all right, so now there is a fire and we need to put it out in this very specific way. It's extremely dangerous whenever there's a fire in the house. So we need to be very much aware that the people that are trained to do this is actually people who have the ability and the clinical background to actually do stuff like this. In the same way as whenever we're working with stress, burnout, it's people who should be trained as psychologists or therapists that should be working with this. But unfortunately, this is a very reactive approach. So we are actually waiting until the house is on fire before we actually start doing something about it. And that is a bit of, it can be a poor approach. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't have this approach whenever something catches fire, because we can only do so many things when it comes to being proactive. Because being proactive means that we actually make some initiatives before the house actually goes on fire. I believe that I have several smoke detectors in my own house. I believe that you also have smoke detectors in your house as well. We see everywhere that wherever there is people, we also have fire inspectors who are coming to make sure that everything is aligned, everything is as it should, in the case of that emergency of a fire outbreak. And the same goes for each and every school. They train from time to time what to do in a situation where something is actually on fire, because then we are prepared, we're being proactive on stuff that we can actually do to prevent the incident from occurring. And when it comes to mental health and well-being in the organization, it's pretty clear that we need to train people, not necessarily in the way of teaching them what to do whenever their house is on fire with stress, depression, or anxiety, but much more in a different direction of actually making sure that they have a clear understanding of how the brain works and what it is, what kind of measurements they can actually do on a daily basis to ensure that other people's houses don't catch fire, and if they do, we can send them off to someone who's trained to do that. But there's so many great initiatives that we can actually do in a proactive manner, especially coming from a strategic point in the organization, that we can literally do to ensure that we don't need to have the people coming and putting out the fire. And I think that that's quite important. And let's try to look upon it from a statistic point of view. And these are devastating, right? And I think that it is quite important because in the UK alone, 25% of the population have some sort of fire within them at any given stage. And these people need help. They need to get help from people who are clinically trained or have a therapeutical background where they can go in, analyze what's actually going on right now with you in this specific moment. And I think I'm quite obligated to actually make sure that you understand this is not about being a corporate mental health facilitator. It's not that we don't care about people who have a mental illness, but we have deeply, deeply respect that the people who actually have a mental illness, they need to be treated by people who are clinician or trained as such to take care of that very specific situation. But fortunately enough, we still have 75% of the working population that still needs to have a proactive approach to corporate mental health and well-being. They need to understand what it is that they can actually do on an everyday basis to increase their own mental health and well-being, but also how they can actually affect the rest of the organization so that they actually ensure that fewer and fewer people are gonna catch fire. Sorry for the analogy, but this is kind of just to make it very, very low practical and understanding. All right, so what would it actually mean? What is it that we actually do whenever we go in and do a process on mental health and well-being using the corporate mental health certification as a facilitator? So as a corporate mental health facilitator, you will actually get this ability to be proactive, teaching people about how the brain works, how do we avoid that it actually becomes to a mental illness. But much more importantly, how can we actually teach people to have some sort of behavior that will help other people to make sure that they actually have a good mental health and well-being? And then obviously it's about getting in front of the problem so that the 25% group is not going to grow, but it's actually going to be it's going to be going down in size. Because if we can get that to shrink down, well, then it's a really, really positive thing, not only for the organization, not only for the individuals who are affected, but also for society in general. And we need to actually teach people how to increase their well-being. So we really need to teach them. So what is it that I can actually do as a person to increase my own well-being? Because a lot of people right now, if they want to lose weight, if they want to get in better shape, well, they have a quite clear understanding of what it is that they should eat less of and what they should eat more of, or how they should exercise if they want some sort of goal in that area. But very few people, unfortunately, still doesn't have that understanding and knowledge on what it is that they need to do to actually increase their own well-being. And of course, one of the things that I think that is crucially important here, especially in the modern time age that we're living in right now, is actually to increase this ability to be present towards the family after work or friends or activities, whatever it is that you do in that life situation that you're in right now. The reason why that's so important is because that's just it's gonna spiral in a very positive direction. If you can actually be present toward your family whenever you get home from work, it means that they are actually going to have a better interaction with you, which is going to emphasize their mental health and well-being, so that they will actually be able to be more present towards their friends and family whenever they go to school again, or whenever your spouse goes to work or husband goes to work again. So we're actually creating a very, very great and positive spiral. And obviously, this is corporate mental health. So our aim is also to actually create better results. But that doesn't mean that we necessarily need to squeeze people to actually get them to perform better or perform more. We just need them to learn how to use their brain in a different and much more productive way so that they can actually generate better results by doing less and using the knowledge and experience that they already have inside of them. So if you have any kind of interest of learning more about how we can actually teach you to become that one that's creating a positive spiral for a lot of people, I encourage you to click the link below here and then fill out the application and book a call with me and the team. And then we're more than happy to actually spend some time with you. It's completely, there's no obligation to it. If you just want to have a couple of pointers to how you should deliver the training that you're already delivering, or anything else that we can help you with becoming that strategic partner of the organization, you're more than welcome to fill out the application and book a call with us. All right, have a fantastic day. Speak soon. Bye, guys.